not a very big Facebooker.
Hey guys, we are here, episode 22 with Jon. It's Happy Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to you.
Thank you.
Fellow veteran, served in Iraq in the first war, correct?
No. In 2003.
2003. Okay, well, Eddie was wrong. He said that you went the first time.
I'm not that old. I'm not as old as Eddie.
Oh, okay. Well, here we are on Veterans Day, two veterans on Trigger Points, and I invited you on here because you are a veteran and wanted to share the audience with somebody that has been successful in real estate and also has a military background like I do.
Yeah.
So, Jon, what you been up to, man?
You know, trying to make money in real estate, trying to keep rentals occupied, trying to keep apartments occupied, trying to keep clients happy.
Yeah. Tough business, right?
It can be a tough business.
Yeah, it can. So, let's just go back. How long you were in Iraq? 2003, right?
I was in Iraq in 2003.
Okay. One deployment, and that was it for you?
One deployment.
Okay. And you were an officer, right?
I was an officer. I was commander of a large company out of Sinton, Texas, and Alice, Texas. We took about 180, almost 200 people over with us, and then picked up all kinds of other people while we were there, and all kinds of labor help that helped us with our projects that we were doing.
Okay. After that, you decided you're just gonna.
I decided that it was fun, but I wanted to settle down a little bit, have a family, and I didn't think that the Army for me was a very good fit for corporate life and having a family.
That is what a lot of.
So I just wanted to settle down a little bit. Yeah. I'd been there, did my time. I'm good.
A lot of people had the same indication. The whole time I was in 21 years, I knew that I did not want to start a family. Yeah, I knew that I was possibly missing out on time and opportunities, but I knew that like I do, serving. It always comes first, and family time comes
whenever you find it.
Whenever you can find it. I did not want that type of relationship with my spouse or with my kids.
That's right.
So I waited till I was in my 40s to have kids. So
that's all right. I was 35 when I started. So.
Yeah, I got another one on the way, as you know.
That's right.
Okay. So after you got out of the military, what was your journey?
So while I was in the Army Reserves, I was commissioned through ROTC at A&M. And I worked for a couple of different corporations in Houston on their real estate teams. So managing corporate real estate, doing commercial leases and doing commercial sales of properties that corporations owned and needed to move or unload for one reason or another.
Okay. And from there, you ventured out on your own, or you were just...
So from there, I was still working for a large restaurant company in town when I got deployed. And so I had to go, hey, boss, I'm leaving and I don't know where I'm going and I don't know when I'm coming back. And you gotta hold my job for me and I'll see you soon. And so that's kind of a tough conversation. And, but a month or two after I left, it became evident what was happening and where I was and what was going on. So they were supportive, but kind of, after the fact, because everybody was just learning about Army Reserves or whatever reserve department you're in, how that impacts your employment. It wasn't common.
Up until that point, that's right. Reserves didn't deploy.
They never deployed.
It was always
State Guard had a little bit, but not the Army Reserve.
Yeah, it was all active duty that did the deployments. Right. Even for the first Iraq War, there was no reserves, no National Guard that went over. It was all. It was just a couple of divisions that went.
Yeah, it was.
And the Army
they were in and out a month or two, right?
Yeah,
they were out fast.
Yeah, and back then the Army was a lot bigger. It was a lot like
that's right.
Power moves, Now at this day and time, and back in 2003, they were more versatile. They're more versatile now. You deploy in smaller packages and stuff like that. So
and the thing that's so common now is all of the contractors that go with the Army. So the Army doesn't use a lot of their own truck drivers. Even in Iraq, they have truck drivers from a vendor, and the truck drivers drive in Iraq.
Yeah. And it's a lot harder to occupy a whole country versus pushing somebody out of a smaller country.
Sure, for sure.
So, that deployment, hell, it went on for 20-something years. So
yeah, it did.
But we appreciate your service and thank you so much. But let's kind of get back. So, for the newer guys that are out there, real estate, your whole real estate journey, it started as soon as you got out of the reserves?
I would say yes. It kind of started. I started a little bit before. I had bought 1 or 2 properties before I deployed.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily I had people that could manage and keep an eye on that for me. I owned my own house before I deployed.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came back from Iraq, that's when my investing really got aggressive.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I had a little more cash to do so, because you build up a little money when you're not spending it on anything in the military.
I was talking to my wife about that the other day. I was like, when I was deployed, I could save tons of money.
That's right.
And people don't realize the amount of money that you spend just on a given day.
That's right.
Going to the store to buy you a drink or get gas or stuff like that.
That's right.
I mean, you're talking hundreds of dollars that you can save weekly, daily.
And then
just
when you're working in a combat zone, there's no income. There's no income taxes.
Yeah, there's no income taxes.
And there's hazardous duty pay.
Yes.
And there's combat pay. And there's jump pay. And there's all these little extra things that add on. You start making a couple extra grand a month, really.
Yeah. But plus, you're not spending it because
you're not spending
all your food, your housing, all that stuff is provided for you. So you're just like 100% profit.
100% profit.
So, unless you got to go buy a candy bar or something at the PX.
You start buying a lot of candy bars and pizzas.
Yeah.
But there was a Pizza Inn, and I wouldn't even go because the line was too long. I'd just send my kids and my guys.
Yeah, give me a pizza.
They'd go get the pizza, and there'd be enough. They'd have one pizza, and I'd have one.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
Hey guys, look, I got to stay here.
Exactly.
Platoon sergeant stuff. Right. Hey, get me a pizza.
That's right.
Or get me a Subway.
Yeah, that's right. There was a Subway.
There was a Subway. Those sandwiches were good.
They were
especially after you eat at the PX every single day.
Or MREs.
Or MREs, yes. So you get a chance to get a Subway sandwich or a pizza.
That's right.
You took advantage.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about. I'm sure your real estate journey was not perfect by no means.
No.
I mean, nobody's is. It can be a tough business at times.
That's right.
There's setbacks. There's wins. There's loses. Talk about, if you don't mind, talk about some of your challenges you've overcome throughout this your real estate journey.
Most of my challenges, I'd probably classify it as starting a flip and kind of working on a property and thinking that if I paint the wall, I'm saving $300 in labor, but not realizing that I spent $3,000 in interest expense that month while I tried to paint the house myself. And when your first flip takes you 6 months or takes you 7 months before you're putting it back on the market. And luckily, this is a problem because I had a corporate income. I could hit the payments. It wasn't an issue for me.
Yeah.
I needed a jet lending back then that would help me learn, hey, quit being a painter. You're getting paid $6 an hour and go hire a painter and be done with it.
Yeah.
And get your rent.
Because it's actually costing you more by doing the work yourself.
Costing me way more.
Like, okay, I got to work my regular job.
That's right.
During the week, and then on weekends, I'm going to go flip this house.
That's right.
Or vice versa,
That's right.
Or do it after work. That interest payment, you've got to actually count that as your labor cost.
It is for sure.
And if you can get somebody to get in there and knock it out in 2 or 3 days, or a day, get the outside painted, next day get the inside painted.
That's right.
That's a whole lot faster. So that's a challenge you've had.
That was one of the challenges that I had to deal with. And a lot of young investors that I talked to, they're like, yeah, man, we can do this ourselves because we know how to lay tile or we know how to do sheetrock and make the float match and all that stuff. And I'm like, man, you're barking up the wrong tree. You got to go be finding the next deal and working on your thing. So that was kind of one of my setbacks and one of the things that I've learned and figured out how to coordinate. So,
and that's powerful stuff. I mean, especially for a new investor, when they're actually taking on a project. I mean, from time to time, we don't have a problem with you doing it.
That's right.
But we will always advise to say, hey, look, you may want to get somebody that's a little bit more experienced. That's why we always recommend like Fast Track or somebody like them. That way, Fast Track goes in, takes care of the property for you. You can learn through them. That's right. How to get the property done, take notes throughout the project, stuff like that. And then maybe, you grow into where you can do some of that work.
But just like it's an art to work with a seller and convince them to take your offer over somebody else's, or to work with a tenant and convince them to lease your property and not go look at two others. It's an art to get sheetrock to match, and I could spend all day and never get it to match. But other people know how to do that, and they don't want to deal with the tenant.
Yes.
And they don't want to deal with an owner or the next door neighbor who's parking on your property or whatever types of issues there.
So Alex asked this question: what advice would you give to active service personnel that you would do differently? Same question to those who are out, who are out. That is a great question. If I could go back, knowing what I know now, I didn't pay that much attention to real estate. Honestly, I didn't. I bought a couple of houses just for my own personal use while I was in the military, so I wouldn't have to pay rent. That way I could get my investment back.
Right.
I'm paying. The Army's going to pay you, but if you can cash out that money at the end and make a little money and put it in your back pocket
on appreciation,
that wins every time.
It does.
And the Army paid me to invest in that property. Now, anyway, long story short,
but you also have risk that the market's down or the market's
up,
flooded or the military says, we told you 4 years, but really it's going to be 1 year and 4 months because now we need you over here.
Yeah.
There's something going down or whatever.
And I took
you're
that.
An expert. You got to go.
Yeah. So, I took that risk twice.
That's right.
Made some money on the first one, lost a little bit on the second one. The market in what am I trying to say? In Clarksville, Tennessee, surprisingly did not make an increase in 5 years.
Wow.
I was there for 5 years and it was
appreciation.
No appreciation whatsoever. In fact, I actually lost money
because your closing costs so much.
Yeah, I lost about $6,000.
Wow.
I was just like, okay. And I didn't know nothing much about real estate back then.
Right.
As I do now. If I would have known what I know, I would have been like, no, screw that. We're going higher.
Yeah.
I was listening to the advice of a real estate agent that I trusted. And he's like, he's like, this is, if you want to sell it fast, this is where we got to be at. And he did sell it fast.
Okay.
So
that's good. He can deliver.
Yeah, he did deliver.
He knew his stuff.
Yeah, he did. But if I could go back to my mid 30s, I wouldn't have bought so many toys and I would have invested in real estate.
Yeah.
I would have been like, nope, no toys. I'm going straight real estate.
That's right.
Especially young 30s. When I bought my first house, I would have been like, you know what? I'm going to keep this as a rental and I'm going to leave clean and I'm going to rent this thing out. If I would have known what I knew now.
Yeah.
But you live and you learn. What would you say?
I would invest for cash flow.
Yeah.
I bought properties that were close to me or what I'm going to call favorable to me, and not in so much uncomfortable areas for the most part. And so I got great appreciation, but my cash flow is lower as a percentage than it is for other properties that may be in more transitional neighborhoods.
Okay. So I guess in the past, if you could go back to when you were in a reserves,
right,
you would probably just start buying rentals immediately.
I would say yes.
Okay.
But you got to have your home base wherever that is.
Yeah.
If yours was Killeen, you probably want to focus there. Or figure out some kind of property management that can help you.
The bad part about active duty is you never know. You never know.
You never know.
So I mean, I was in Killeen for 8 years.
Yeah.
I moved around 1st Cavalry Division 4 different times. I re-enlisted to stay there 2 different times. And I mean, hell, I would have never left if it wasn't for that second deployment to Iraq.
I got a buddy who is a West Point officer, and he owns a house in Killeen, and they bought it when he was stationed there, and they said they were just going to keep it, and kind of their plan was to come back there and retire, and they would at least have that house to do that, and he uses some kind of property management service.
Yeah. I mean, they're all.
But he's been in 10 different places since then, and he rents wherever he goes. And stuff.
Well, I mean, heck, if I would have known what I know now, I would have kept the one in Killeen. I would have kept the one in Clarksville, Tennessee, and I would have 2 rentals right now.
That's right.
Probably almost paid off.
But as you know, sometimes it gets really hard to manage something.
Oh, it
far
does.
Away.
It does. But I mean, you just can't fall in love with those properties.
You can't.
You gotta.
They're just a tool.
Yeah, that's all they are. That's one thing. If there is any active duty or anybody watching today or reservists, National Guard, if you're in your 30s or early 20s, start buying rentals right now. Like, I mean, go to Clean, if you're on active duty, go to Clean, go to all these major cities and buy as many rentals as you can.
If you're going to live in it, you can use your VA loan to acquire it.
Yes.
And then
live in it for
a while, and then move out when you Army asks you to move. Keep the property.
Keep the property. I would have done the exact same thing. So John, it takes a different mindset to get out of the military and be successful. Would you say?
I would say so.
Okay. What would you say has your mindset has been some success for you?
What the question was? What in my mindset helped me to be successful?
Yeah. All right. As we all know, there's a lot of veterans that get out of the military and they don't do anything.
They struggle.
They struggle
a lot.
They struggle really hard, being mentally, physically, mindset. They get down on themselves. What would you say would be you're getting out, right?
That's right.
You let's say you've served 21 years.
Yep.
And you're getting out of the military. What do you think you need to do to be successful as far as your mindset goes?
I think you have to go find a niche where you'll fit in, wherever that niche is going to be. And the military used to have pretty much no transitions.
Mm-hmm.
So the same buddy I just mentioned that the other day, we visited his family in Washington, D.C., where he's working at Fort Belvoir now. And I said, well, what are you doing? He says, I'm spending the next 8 months in training to be a civilian.
Yeah.
I said, are you serious? What do you do all day? He has online classes. He has some virtual classes, some in-person classes. He says, no, I'm like still attached to my old unit, but I have zero responsibilities. And my whole mission today is, and he ran a 500, 800 person recruiting battalion. His whole mission today is to focus on ways that he's going to transition out of the military into a successful career. Now? Yes, for like 8 months. I said, are you serious? It's 8 months you're going to.
Well, it's changed a lot in the last.
I
retired in 2016 after 21 years. I forgot what they called that program.
I don't know the specific name of it.
I don't either.
He was
ACAP.
Yeah,
Army Career Alumni Program.
Yeah. And we were kind of laughing at how long. I said, how long does it take you to figure that out? You know.
Well, and for years, ACAP, and I don't know what it's called now, so forgive me, but it's a check. It was a check the block thing. Go over to ACAP.
That's right.
Get them to sign off.
Right.
You take a couple of classes if you want to.
Right.
But a lot of people
I think it's improved a lot.
Yeah, a lot of veterans will go over there, or the people getting out of the military, and be like, I don't need this. I don't need this. Just sign it.
That's right.
I want to get back to going and
right.
Not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's right.
And then they get out and they're like, oh wow, because hey, you got that money coming in your back pocket. But as soon as that DD 214 hits,
that's right,
and your last paycheck hits,
you burn off your last 2 months of leave.
2 months of leave, you're like, uh-oh,
you're broke.
And I'm telling you, I am very fortunate. Johnny and Lee, my sister, I'm very fortunate that I have them. Very, very fortunate that I have them. Because if it wasn't for them two, I had shock. Because my whole military career, up until literally the day that I left Clarksville, I was working. I mean, I was signed out on leave and still helping my battalion commander get stuff.
Wow.
Because they were coming back in from Afghanistan.
Yeah, they needed help.
And I was the only one that was trained enough to do the things that they needed to do.
Wow.
So, I mean, all the way up until my retirement party. And then after a retirement party, we had another gathering, and I was helping him with that. And literally, it didn't hit till I got back to Texas.
Wow.
Oh, okay, it's over now.
Yeah.
The wheels, the wheel of this track and this train have completely stopped.
That's right.
It was a little rough patch, but thankfully I had some very wise guidance.
Yeah.
Johnny's like, all right, first thing first, let's go get your real estate license.
I remember when you started.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago.
It was actually, though. It'd be 5 years here, December the 1st. Can you believe it? That's crazy. 5 years. It goes by just like that. I've been retired almost 6 years. So
Nice.
that time goes by very fast.
Yeah,
and a lot of changes have happened during that time too.
That's right.
So, let's kind of go back to your mindset as far as, what do you think you need to be successful, other than the ACAP portion?
For me to be successful, I need to have some goals. I need to have some problems to solve.
Mm-hmm.
I need to have some projects to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to continue to improve myself in ways you may not expect or you may not think of
Mm-hmm.
from someone. But, I started my investing in some single family rentals, standard issue house, buy it, get a loan. At the time, they were doing some different types of loans, like an 80-10-10 loan, where it was 10% equity, 80% loan, and then a 10% second lien,
Mm-hmm.
which had higher interest rates and things like that. And so I was trying to buy a house a year, and then that grew and bought a few more houses, and did that for a number of years, mainly using my corporate income to provide the equity into those projects, So, and then had the opportunity to help some people, and they kind of said, hey, let's go do some flips. And so we started doing flips that were in different neighborhoods, maybe a little bit lower end. We flipped a lot of houses, turned them into owner finance. So then we were collecting, money from the finance side, and we were collecting money from the sale of the house side and all our profits from the sale of the house side. Mm-hmm. So we did that for a number of years and built up a lot of owner finance notes and owner finance projects. And then I dabbled into a bunch of commercial different properties, some of which I own myself, and some I'm a limited partner in some bigger office buildings and other projects. So that's a lot of where my investment horizon has been.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, so up until now, you've had this long career of investing in commercial and real estate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself going moving forward? Where would you like to be in 5-10 years?
5 to 10 years, probably. I don't know if I'd say doing the same thing, but maybe doing projects that are a little bit different, a little less active side. Right now, I own and manage some apartment buildings, general partner with some other people and manage those apartment projects as well. And so that takes up a little bit of my time now, and a little bit of drama that goes with that side of it.
Of course.
But I'd like to probably phase out of that and keep my investment position or transfer it into another investment project. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. But that's kind of where I would probably see myself in the next 5 years.
It's kind of slowing down a little bit.
Just on the active side.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm still going to be doing things, whether that's brokering properties or brokering ranches. But I just don't know if I like the property management side of it. It's kind of getting a little old for me on some of the projects that I do that for, which is a few hundred units.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, sometimes you go off on one venture and you're
That's
like,
right.
Hey, I've had enough of this.
That's right.
I'm going to let somebody else handle that portion of it.
That's
and
right.
Then, you shift focus to something else that's, a little bit more meaningful. I mean, you got
That's right.
in this industry, in anything as far as mindset goes, you've got to be able to adapt and overcome. And and if anything that anybody takes out of this podcast or any other podcast or anything on Veterans Day, you've got to use the same mindset that the military taught you in the first place.
Dude, I mean, that's what I was going to go back to. When I was in Iraq, my company had a mission of doing very specific things, of running big warehouses. So we ran a big warehouse, and then we got mission 2, and we got mission 3, and We got mission 4. We got mission 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We had a dozen or 13 different missions going on all at the same time, with 7 people over here and 22 people over there and 18 people over there and shifting over there, and it was chaos.
Yes.
And during the invasion phase, my boss, the colonels, we were meeting 4 times a day. We're meeting 6 a.m. We're meeting at noon. We're meting at 6 p.m. We're meeting at midnight.
Death by PowerPoint.
And no, they weren't that long. We would meet briefly, but it was just so intense and so much changing that we had to be aware of all these
adapting and overcoming to the mission.
That's right.
And I mean, if you can use, and a lot of veterans, unfortunately, don't use the things that the military taught you in the first place.
That's right.
You got to shoot. I hate to say this, you got to shoot, move, and communicate.
That's right.
And you've got to do that in your personal life. You've got to do it once the train stops turning.
Right.
You've got to say, you know what, I got to use these skills that the Army taught me and keep on moving forward.
Are you familiar with the military decision-making matrix?
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times, even now, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff online about this now. It's not any kind of military secret, but you basically lay out your priorities and you prioritize what's most important to you to what's less important to you.
Yep.
And then you take a course of action number 1, you take course of action number 2, if you have a third course of action, you put those on paper, and next thing you know, you build a little spreadsheet and come up with a score of this for course of action 1 and a score of that for course of action 2. And you go, okay, it's an easy decision. Boom.
Yeah. What's the highest priority on the higher commands list?
That's right.
Versus what your priorities are, and you run them down. We had an old saying in the CAV. It was actually called CAV.
Yep.
CAV. Coordinate, anticipate, and verify.
Yeah.
And you still got to. I mean, how I kind of run things here. You got to coordinate, make sure everybody's on the same sheet of music.
That's right.
You got to anticipate that something's going to get messed up, and you got to verify it didn't.
That's right.
And if you can, those are 3 things that I've literally in my leadership career in the Army that that's always what I did. I had a book, and I would, those green books that everybody carries.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hey, here's our priority list, even for daily, weekly, monthly, and you go down and say, hey, look, these tasks need to get done, and you coordinate how they get done, anticipate that they didn't get done, and verify that they did. Right. And that if more veterans would, take what they learn and keep a positive mindset about, instead of, oh well, I can't do this, I can't do that, instead, and have more of a I can and I'm able. There's always a will and a way.
That's right.
So, what advice do you have for young investors? Like
for young investors,
brand new young investors.
Typically, what I tell them is find a rental that's no more than 10 minutes from your pillow. So wherever your pillow is, you need to be somewhere in that vicinity, because you're gonna have to go to that house a whole lot.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to make a lot of trips over there, whether you're meeting with the painter or meeting with the tenant or checking the air conditioner or whatever you're doing. So don't find one that's, in Greater Houston, 2 hours away. Could be. I mean, that's a recipe for a challenge, a bigger challenge than it needs to be.
So kind of wherever you're staying, you need to have a net cast.
Yes.
Not far.
Now, you get a little experience. Hey, I've done flips in Longview. I got houses in Ranches Pass, and I got, you get a little more experience. You can handle that stuff. But on the front end, you got all your own challenges. Needs to be the commute time needs to be minimal.
Yeah, I would agree. Especially on rentals. I mean, me and my wife had one, and it was literally in the same neighborhood.
Yep.
The problem with that rental is that it did not work out because it was like her little nest.
Right.
And as soon as we got our nest,
right,
she was still in love with her little nest, and to me, it was an investment property.
Right.
Like, I don't have any feelings towards this.
Once it's not your nest, once it's not your house anymore, then it's just,
I didn't, but it was hers.
Right.
But she had created her own little family and all this stuff,
the
and
neighbors
and everything. And I'm like, So when we put a renter in there, she was worried about every small little detail.
Oh, wow.
I was like, baby, you got to treat this like
Right.
it's not yours anymore. She's like, it is mine. I'm like,
Yeah.
I understand completely,
That's
but
right.
so after a year of
That.
trying to property manage that, and I was just like,
Yeah.
out, we're out,
Yep.
because you're too much in love with
That's
this
right.
property, and we will take our cash out now.
That's right.
And we will invest it in other things.
That's
and
right.
that's exactly what we did. And
That's a good decision.
And so eventually, we haven't, because I'm always busy here, we haven't really taken the time to go and buy more investment. I am investing cash, but putting it to work. But
right. In passive real estate investments.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, passive real estate
That's
investment.
Good. I have over the years several of those.
Yeah.
And now I have them that I've had for 10 years, and we've refi, we've sold the property, we've done other things, and boom, then I get this cash infusion of not only my capital back, but all these profits. Some of them 5x. If I put in $1, I get $5 back on it.
Yeah.
And finding different ways to deploy that.
Well, I mean, it can't just sit in your bank account.
No,
no.
You've got to.
I mean, if you've got large amounts of cash sitting in your bank account right now, that's crazy.
That's right.
I mean,
especially in the inflationary times that we're basically.
You've got to put it to work, either in real estate, or you've got to put it in work passively. You can lend it to a private lender, or you become the private lender. To gap funding, there's 100 ways to put your money to work and make it work for you.
That's right.
It's sitting in the bank. I mean, I've had these discussions with multiple people. Like, look, I've even called some people from that I've done deals with. That I see their bank account. So look, I'm not trying to be pressing,
right?
But you've got a large amount of cash sitting over here, and it's not really doing anything. I'm going to offer something to you,
That's right.
And some advice. Oh, heck, I didn't even think about that.
If you're doing commercial loans, you need to have cash present.
Mm-hmm.
One of the little slangs is flash the cash. Yeah. So, hey, here's our cash flow statements. But then the next day you can take it out of there and put it to work or put it somewhere else. But you have to kind of flash the cash sometimes. So a lot of times every quarter, every 6 months, when I'm cash heavy or something, if that's a good time to renew those notes or refi something or show something else.
Absolutely.
Then you put the cash to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And take it down to a lower comfort level.
So a couple of last questions. What do you do for fun, John? I don't think I've ever asked you this.
I like hunting.
Hunting.
I got a young family now, a young boy who's 8. So he and I are out playing and four-wheeling and fishing and doing all kinds of things, learning football and learning baseball and doing all that family stuff.
Okay.
So that's where most of my fun time goes. And I love the rodeo. I don't know why. I grew up in San Antonio doing a lot of rodeo, going to the rodeo a lot. Mm-hmm. So, I live 5-10 minutes from rodeo now. So half the time with rodeos going on, I like to be down there.
Okay. Cool.
Seeing all kinds of different things. How are people raising cattle? Why are these miniature horses better than the other horses? And how do they eat? What's going on with all that stuff? So
you're big.
It almost kind of ties into real estate a little bit.
Well,
the agriculture does. Yeah.
I mean, especially for ranches, and, bigger proproperties like that. Which, I mean, you're kind of a pro at finding that stuff, aren't you?
Well, I don't know if I'd say I'm a pro, but I do a lot. I've gotten into a lot of ranch real estate lately. So buying some bigger parcels and working on a lot of projects.
Yeah. You've even helped us with some stuff. Yeah,
I've helped a couple of times. And just like in the investment community, sometimes Eddie will call, or other bankers, even in town, will call and say, "Hey, we're making a loan on this. What do you think? Can they really lease it up in a year, or is it going to take longer?" Or different types of things that the people bounce off of me.
Okay. Well, one last question: if you could leave thoughts with anybody out there and that's watching this podcast, what last piece of advice would you leave them?
I would tell them to get off the sidelines and do something. Because, you know, I know at jet events or other things, a lot of the people there are on the sidelines, or they're learning for a while, or they're studying. But I can't tell you how important it is to do something. Even if you find a partner that will partner with you on a deal, and maybe they're putting up some money, or maybe you're putting up some money and you're putting up time, and there's a good partnership there. I encourage people to do something, because if you do it with a partner once, I mean, I was a limited partner on an investment project, for apartments. And that was, 400 units ago now. So I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot. But
getting your feet wet, you mean?
Yeah. Now I'm the general partner on the other side of the fence, managing those investments for other investors who put their cash with us.
So how do I structure this? So let's say that you got people that are on the sideline.
Right.
And there's like, well, I'm just scared to make that jump.
Yes, they are. They're scared. They don't have enough cash. They don't know if that house is the right house or the wrong house, or they're being fed something by a wholesaler who said ARV is X and it's not X, it's really Y, or whatever the case may be. So, there's a few people that you end up mentoring or helping a little bit more, investing a little bit more of your time in. I've got a buddy who helped me for years with some things, and now he's kind of at that phase right now where he's really getting into this, and he's really trying to get all the education he can, and so I've been helping him, but forcing him to go out and do certain things. He's got some action things. He's got some credit card. He's got credit card debt, and I'm like, dude, I want to see this going down. So show me your debt going down. I want to see that. I want to see that you're making progress to bring this down, because it's going to hurt you if you go to jet lending. And you're trying to get a loan, they're going to look at that against your debt service coverage ratio, and you're not going to have enough to buy the property you want to rehab it. So you got to take care of that debt, and it needs to be, are you serious? Yeah, I'm very serious. Great. Well, did you work for Uber? Did you drive last night? No, I didn't. I didn't do any of that. I didn't do that. Oh, really? You got to. How much is your truck payment again? $800. Oh, okay. So you got an $800 truck payment. If we take that, that'd be $10,000 that we could apply in the next year against your debt, and bring it down. Yeah. So we
love our debt, don't we?
We love our debt, but you learned, if his priority is less about driving a macho truck and more about collecting $1,000 of passive income each month from one house, and once he does it once, then it's off to the races. The hardest one is by far the first property to do, and find you a single family rental, something that works for you. And go for it.
Well, John, I know your time is valuable. We're gonna cut this short today,
all right,
because it is Veterans Day, and I want to go enjoy it a little bit.
Okay.
But I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you putting your input, and hopefully somebody's watching out there that's gonna take your advice and use it.
Cool.
And I appreciate you again.
Thanks, Rob.
Next week we will be back on Friday. This week we just wanted to do a Veterans Day show with two veterans that are in the real estate industry to show you that, hey, look, if you're a veteran out there, or if you're active duty, don't wait to invest in your future, because I'm telling you, once you get out, or once you get to a certain point, that train's going to stop, and you're going to be like, oh crap, what do I do? So don't let that happen to you. But we will see y'all again next week, and I hope y'all have a great Veterans Day.
All right, gig 'em.
I don't know about all that. All right, guys, we'll see y'all later. Thanks. We're out here.